New York.
Apple.
Hot dogs.
Dollar.
Hollywood.
Democracy.
Freedom. Rock and roll.
Wall Street.
Statue of Liberty.
Los Angeles, California.
McDonald's. Jeans.
Bubblegum. Video games. Nintendo.
What's so great about America?
Every Saturday night, 7 to 9 p.m., explore American culture and language.
With Master Steve,
Ina MK,
And Hazva QT.
tune in to find out about what makes America so great.
The Great American Weekend. Listen exclusively on Radio Van 103.1.
Also, watch us on the Radio Von Facebook page, website, and mobile app.
Yeah. Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen. This is Easter. Happy
the Easter edition
Easter.
of the Great American Weekend.
We're
Resurrect
here.
and rebirth for all of us.
Yeah. Happy Easter to everyone.
Not
good evening, Master
yet.
and Hasva.
Not yet.
Good evening, Ina.
Okay.
Technically,
that is a debate coming
yes.
soon.
I hold that technically we should still be in mourning.
Okay.
In mourning?
Yes.
I'm so sad now.
Lenting.
Lenting.
And mourning.
We're in lenting.
This is the
What
Great
about
American
lentils?
Weekend, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to remind you that our frequency is 103.1, Radio Van number 1. And our English-speaking show will be on till 9 p.m. tonight. We're going to share with you all the Easter traditions, about food and about the ceremonies at church, also much more on spring, and of course some other stuff.
Some other stuff?
With my co-hosts, Hazva QT and Master Steve.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
How are you guys doing? Did you have a good week?
I had a great week. Yeah, it's been leading up to this kind of this theme of resurrection and rebirth. All the small buds that had been growing for some weeks now have become leaves and flowers. It's
I
all
thought you were going to
reminder.
say like the cold spell and the cold rain last night killed them all, so we're hoping that they're going to be reborn.
Why
Yesterday's weather was just weird, and
It
today's
was.
too.
It's so cold.
It feels like winter again.
It got
I hope
chilly.
I hope it doesn't affect the apricot crops, because that's like my favorite thing.
That's what everybody's concerned
Yeah,
about.
I don't think it was that cold. It didn't quite freeze. They were saying it was supposed to snow yesterday.
I heard that as well.
It was. I bet it was in the regions.
Well, yeah, probably did in the regions. Yeah.
But yeah, the flowers are great this week, and the leaves are even better. The green, just that green, it feels like resurrection and rebirth, and it's, for me, it always reminds me of the time of
Genocide. Resurrection
genocide.
feel like?
Becoming
the last
new.
time you resurrected, how was it?
Becoming new.
Was after the surgery. I think.
Yeah, after the appendix surgery, or just, I think, seriously though, I think that every moment is an opportunity to see everything new again. And it doesn't mean that you have to relearn everything, but every moment is an opportunity to see your environment as new, and in doing so, you might see something new, because we have this concept of already listening and already seeing, where we how like they have these mixed up letters inside of a passage, and your brain makes this jump and understands the letters inside of the passage, so that it makes the assumption that it knows when the letters are not actually there's like a way of listening and the way of seeing the world that I feel like we function in, which is kind of assuming that we know. And every once in a while, especially around now, when we see the transition from winter to spring and the leaves opening, it's a time where I feel like we have a chance to actually see new again, to see things fresh again, and to kind of put into question things that we take as assumptions and really see.
To reinvent the world.
Yes, I love that. Hey, that's really, Steve, it's good.
Master Steve with his philosophy.
Don't get me started. I could guess.
Please start it.
Origin of the work of art, Martin Heidegger. Never mind. You guys don't want me to go there.
We do want you to go there. What is
You'll regret that.
resurrection and rebirth for you, Master Steve?
I don't know. It's the whole Easter week kind of tells the story of the last week of Jesus's life. Mm-hmm. And then, the crucifixion and the resurrection. And actually the whole church year, the liturgical year in the Catholic Church, because I grew up Catholic, it goes through really the same events and the same things every year. It's a different year, the same things. But like you were saying, Armust, every year you can go through and look at it and learn something new. Whether it's digging deeper into the way that you saw it in the past, or looking at it with new eyes and seeing the different aspects of it. Because so many of the things that happen in religion are multi-layered and multifaceted that you can't really see it all at the same time or see it all at once.
Mm. And what I see is a ladybug on your nose, Stephen.
A ladybug?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I had Easter on my nose.
Yeah.
I wanted you to...
George is on my mind and Easter's on my nose.
Because Zatik. That was a really confusing thing for me at one point here.
I bet.
Zatik. Yeah, ladybug. No, it's Easter.
Literally means ladybug, but it comes from the word zatel, which means to separate. It's like separation from sin.
Mm. Oh.
This is what it means. This is what it comes from.
I mean, that's, one of the many symbols in the whole crucifixion and resurrection is the overcoming of sin, the overcoming of death, sacrificing your will. I mean, it's it's got so many layers of meaning to it, the whole Easter holiday thing.
It's like a triumph over the death.
Mm-hmm.
This is
a triumph over death, triumph over sin. It's the
cleansing.
I mean, the whole thing
cleansing.
Cleansing. The whole thing about Jesus who is supposed to be the Messiah, and all of the the Messiah gets crucified. Whoa, oops.
By the way,
not so fast, because he resurrects.
Yeah.
By the way,
but I mean, that's why today is supposed to still be a day of mourning and a day of absolute confusion. I mean, what something else that was going on here in Armenia this past week, which we didn't talk about last week, was all of these. I mean, all of these kind of anniversaries of things that happened. The first year anniversaries of things that happened with the Velvet Revolution.
True.
So, one of the things with Jesus being
symbolic.
the Messiah, in the Jewish tradition, most people thought that the Messiah was supposed to be political, like a political leader. So, when he was then rounded up by the Pharisees and then crucified by the Romans, they thought, oh, well, I guess he wasn't the Messiah because he's not going to be the king of Israel who's going to lead us to freedom from Roman rule, right? So thinking about the parallels kind of with the, I don't want to say that Nicol is Jesus, but it would be like after the first, it would be like Jesus's crucifixion would be like them arresting Nicol like a year ago today and killing him.
Do you remember?
And then also, we thought this was the guy who was supposed to, liberate Armenia, and now he's dead.
Steve, do you remember he hurt his arm?
His hand.
His hand?
Yeah. I was there.
Yeah.
I was there.
There you go. So after this happened, a lot of people were comparing this thing with Jesus and how he shed blood for people's freedom and...
Real quick, so on the last day before Ser Sarkisian resigned, there was a man who was walking, and I filmed because it was so and powerful as an image. He created a 10-foot wooden cross. He put barbed wire around his head. He had a tablecloth around him as if it was a robe, and he was walking all around the center of Republic Square with this giant cross because he felt like another March 1st massacre would occur, and he wanted to protect himself and the people around him.
We should come back to that. We should come, but then I want to do something really quick before we go to commercial break, because we're going to be talking about traditions, like American traditions and Armenian traditions, and I've got a surprise for you guys. Okay?
Yes, I love surprises sometimes.
Easter egg hunts are an American tradition.
Yeah.
The adults hide the Easter eggs. We'll talk more about this later, but I have hidden 4 eggs in the studio. And I want you guys to find them during this commercial break.
Oh, I love this.
And then afterwards, we'll use the eggs to do like one of my favorite Armenian Easter traditions. We'll do the egg fights.
Can we actually do it on air?
We'll do the egg fights on air.
We need to go on a break.
Yeah, we need to go to the break.
Commercial break.
While we're on break, you guys need to find the eggs. There are 4 of them hidden in the studio.
Egg hunting and egg cracking coming soon after this advertisement break. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend, and we're celebrating Easter right here on air, guys.
Come and hang with us every weekend. It'll be a blast.
A blast?
Yeah, a good time.
No, come chill with us. It'll be cool.
Chill?
Yeah, relax, hang out.
Come chill with the fat with us.
Yuck! No way! Join us!
On the Great American Weekend, where we'll help you decode American slang.
Welcome back to the Great American Weekend here on Radio Vaughn. I'm Master Steve. I've got Automas.
What's up?
Sorry, I've got Hazva QT over here.
Hazva QT in the house.
And Ina MK over there.
And we were doing egg hunting here. It was so much fun. Thank you, Steven.
You're welcome. And you guys found them fairly quickly, and there was a tie, so nobody won the Easter egg hunt.
Yeah. We found each of us found a pair.
Yep, each
so
of you
this
found
was
2.
one of the symbols of friendship.
Yeah.
Friendship wins.
And we had, I hid the real hard-boiled eggs, and that is not really something that we do in America anymore. One, because if they don't get found, they end up being really rotten and stinky and nasty.
I bet
They already kind of are. I mean, like eggs, boiled eggs in general, are not really pleasant to smell.
No, I like them. They're yummy.
I mean, I like eating them, but the smell is not that great.
Do you remember Animaniacs?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
and
love
the good
Animaniacs.
idea, bad idea
Yes.
little skits? Good idea, finding Easter eggs on Easter morning. Bad idea, finding Easter eggs Halloween morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Ew. But usually in America, the Easter egg hunts, they're not real eggs. Mm-hmm. They're candy eggs, like chocolate or whatever, because, American kids don't want hard-boiled eggs.
We don't have the sugar reward from a real boiled egg,
dude, my
sugar,
parents will give me hard-boiled
like
eggs for breakfast if I ask them. So, why am I going to go searching around for them? But candy, that's a whole nother thing, right? And then a lot of times whichever kid finds the most of them ends up winning an additional prize. But I think it's really neat. I think it's really neat here in Armenia because the kids here would probably really look for the hard-boiled eggs, I think, if you did an Easter egg hunt with hard-boiled eggs. And that's because of, my favorite Armenian Easter tradition.
Oh, I love it.
The egg fights.
The egg fights are awesome. I remember in our family there was always a contest at my aunt Zarmine's house, and everyone had their own strategy of like squeezing the egg from below or above, or holding it loosely or holding it tighter, and everyone had like a different side that they would tap on first, and there was always someone who was very sure about their strategy on how to tap the egg. And basically how the game works is that you take an egg and you have to tap on someone else's egg, and whoever's eggs cracks is the one who loses. Then you can flip it to the other side, and whoever comes with the strongest eggs at the end of it comes out as the winner.
You stole my Armenian tradition part.
Wait, you tell how you do it. How does your family do it?
In fact, we are now ready to go on our second break.
But
really?
This means that during the break we're gonna break the egg.
Yeah. We're gonna have the egg fight.
Yeah, in front of the camera. So watch.
Automas and I eat what? We each have one egg, and Ina has 2.
You got the advantage.
So if you guys are watching
home country advantage.
If you guys are watching on Facebook Live, you can watch our little egg fight tournament here during the commercial break.
Yeah, and you can vote before it's finished. By the way, you have plenty of time because right after the advertisement break, we're going to listen to Brian McKnight, When Will I See You Again? One of my favorite songs. Stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend, Easter mood.
We'll see you again soon.
Yep.
Hey, Steve, do you like Chash Harissa and Spas?
Yeah, I love them. But what would you call them in English?
Yeah, I'd call them cowfoot stew, chicken porridge, and sour yogurt soup.
Sorry I asked.
The Great American Weekend.
That was a contrast here after Brian McKnight, the Armenian national sound. But this is what our show is all about, contrasts, fusions. So we're back in the studio. The Great American Weekend is on till 9 p.m. and we're here with Hazva QT and Master Steve.
Hello, hello.
I'm not just Master Steve right now. I am also the egg fight champion of Great
Lord
American
of
Weekend.
Eggs.
Yes, the Lord of the Eggs.
I believe that you replaced that with a wooden egg. I don't know if that's a real one or not.
No, this is real.
I'm just.
Although
being
when you were saying everybody has their own strategy, I think the best strategy I ever heard was the wooden egg. But then you have to have some pretty good magician.
That's not a strategy. That's
cheating. Then you have to have some pretty
Cheating
good
is a
magician.
strategy.
You have to have some pretty good magician skills and be able to
like
swap
wave
the
it around,
eggs out. You know.
Oh, maybe we can have a magician here in the studio sometime.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Is that a
Nice
saying
idea.
in English? Like, are you busting my eggs instead of busting my balls? Because in Armenian,
Make sure you don't say it in Armenian.
because in Armenian it has like both, eggs has both reference.
In a lot of languages, it does,
Really?
but not in
English.
Not
like,
in English. Yeah, I think in most romantic languages, romance languages, romance languages, like I think Italian and Spanish, they do that.
Quit
Yeah.
beating my eggs.
So
yeah, you
quit
can't
be-
say that in English. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense.
That means something else. You're like scrambling your eggs.
So,
But yeah, I mean,
Had to
so
clear
the
my throat
English.
with that
What is the English phrase? Breaking somebody's balls.
Busting my
busting the balls. What does it mean?
I mean, giving someone a tough time. I mean, if we're gonna slangify it, it means like giving someone a tough time. But in Armenian, I don't know. We don't talk about breaking eggs like Zaveras Jartumas.
Please don't do it, Aramat. It's
We can
Easter
stop
at the end
now.
of the day. Are you guys ready for some
Literally,
quotes?
it's Easter at the end of today. At the
Wait,
end
at
of
6. Actually, we passed 6, so we're already in Easter.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
No.
You go by Vatican time?
Steven.
Oh, that's right.
No.
You're Catholic.
I'm
He's
like,
Catholic.
I'm gonna cut you off with some
and more ads? What were that bad? We just need to
And now for another break. It's like, it's like back in the theater when like someone had a bad show, they would take the hook and then take them off stage. Like,
I am asking for a quote break, guys. You ready?
But we didn't do traditions.
oh yeah, we're going to
Can
traditions.
we do
Yeah.
Armenian
traditions right after the quotes?
Okay, let's do the quotes.
Okay, let's do it. Do not abandon yourselves to despair. We are the Easter people, and Hallelujah is our song, says
my
Pope
God.
John Paul II. Easter,
Saint
yeah.
John Paul.
Easter is meant to be a symbol of hope, renewal, and new life. Janine Di Giovanni. A man who was completely innocent offered himself as a sacrifice for the good of others, including his enemies, and became the ransom of the world. It was a perfect act. Gandhi.
Yeah, and that's coming from somebody who, like,
Who's
isn't even,
not Christian.
not a Christian.
And the last one. It is at Easter that Jesus is most human, and like all humans, he fails and is failed. He's not an all-powerful God. It is an all-vulnerable God.
I don't know. I don't think I agree with that.
Michael Lunik.
Michael Lunik.
You don't agree with him, do you?
No, I mean,
Why? Let's start from that and then go on with the traditions.
how does Jesus fail in Easter?
Maybe he meant that he fails to stay alive, and then he resurrects.
Well, I mean,
there's so much room for interpretation
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I mean, there's the failure of the body. and then there's the rising to another level of the spirit. So in the realm of man and man trying to understand Jesus as a human, his body failed, but then something greater was born, which is his soul and spirit. And I think that's the essence of what resurrection or Harutun in Armenian is for, is that we kind of sacrifice our body in order to cultivate something greater in ourselves, a higher self, or something that connects to a universal, something universal.
Yeah, but I don't see that as a failure. It's an overcoming. You know, I mean, it's the
maybe
it's
a failure in human understanding.
Probably, I
Could
think.
be.
I mean, yeah, I mean, because Jesus doesn't fail. I mean, he has to be.
Jesus never fails.
No, Jesus.
There's a lot of room for philosophy here, but let's start from the American traditions of Easter.
Okay.
Do you guys?
American tradition. First of all, I mean,
sounds
one of
like
the
an
things is there's the
oxymoron
whole
to me. I'm
American
sorry. I just have to call that out. American tradition. It's just like,
oh, come on.
I know. I gotta be the naysayer.
Easter bunny.
But it's got to be. I mean,
Easter bunny says hello.
Oh, yeah, we got the
comparison
chocolate Easter bunnies. The peeps.
The peeps.
Oh my god.
Where does this
my peeps.
Easter bunny
Which is, I mean,
come from?
peeps. Yeah, peeps is one of those.
It's a slang opportunity right now.
Yeah, I mean, peeps is like my friends, my people,
Yeah,
peeps.
yeah, peeps.
But it also
peeps.
is these wonderful little marshmallow candies.
I wouldn't call them wonderful.
That are shaped like chicks, like chickens,
chubby bunnies.
little chickens, and they're covered in yellow sugar. And they're just, I mean, you know, you could fit a couple of them. You could fit a couple of them. You could fit a couple of them in the palm of your hand, you know. And they're so sugary and
they're only
so
sugary.
Sweet. They're like disgustingly good. And they used to only be around at Easter time, and they used to only be yellow. And now they've got all sorts of different colors, and they not only have the little chicks. The little chicken ones, they've got the bunny-shaped ones, and
Don't talk about sugar.
I mean, it's
here.
like candy corn for Halloween, and the little candy hearts for Valentine's Day.
I could never understand peeps because for me, I was a chocolate guy, so I was always going after the chocolate bunny. Or the Cadbury eggs. Have you ever had a Cadbury egg before?
No.
Oh my gosh!
What is it?
They used to have them here. They used to have them here at Sauce, but I haven't seen them for a few years.
It's replaced by Turkish Kinder. Thank you, Turkey.
No, but I mean,
we got to talk about turkey.
That's the thing.
Later on the
Let's
show.
talk turkey. Another slang opportunity.
You mean the bird?
Yum.
You mean the bird?
Well, speaking of turkey, I mean, you know, Thanksgiving is turkey, but what is Easter in the U.S.? What's the food?
For me, the food is Cadbury eggs. I'm still on the Cadbury egg. It's like chocolate filled with.
egg.
You know what it is? It's beautiful. It's like this chocolate egg filled with this delicious.
Chocolate is always
goo.
beautiful.
It's like a gooey caramel. It's not even caramel. You don't know what it is, but it's delicious.
But it looks like an egg, so part of it's white and part of it's yellow.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can like crack it open, and it looks like a raw egg
And
inside,
it's like sweet,
kind of
condensed, sugary. Who knows
it
what?
might be kind of condensed milk.
It might be
kind of thing. I mean, it's
This is
super
a real,
good.
But of
I
course,
love
that's
it.
not a real
Easter
food.
torture.
they only had them around Easter, and so it used to always be a thing. You'd get them, and then you'd see how long you could make them last.
Yes.
You know, it'd be like August, and I'd be eating my last Cadbury egg.
It's like, no.
Because you just want to make them so good.
Farewell,
So
Don't
Cadbury
do
egg.
this to me. I've just started
but like
the keto
real,
diet.
yeah, but like the real food. Because I mean, for candy, you'll also have jelly beans.
I'm going ham on this one. I'm going ham. That's
the
another
Easter
slang
ham.
opportunity.
The Easter ham.
Going
Going ham.
Master Steve.
Going ham is going hard as a mother.
Oh, okay. Going all out.
Yeah.
Master
Hard as a mother.
Steve. I have a question about Easter Bunny. Okay.
Not
both
yet.
of
We
you
have to
guys.
talk about the ham.
No,
we have to talk
Oh
about
my
ham.
God, the
you
ham
can
is
eat
so
ham.
delicious.
It's
Ham
more
is
like-
protein.
You're Armenian. You eat pork, yes?
So
Yeah.
here's a thing about the Easter ham. Why is it ham at Easter?
I think that it's because people are sleeping when they eat turkey in Thanksgiving. On Christmas dinner, it's usually like a chicken and then they got to mix it up with something else on Easter because it's like just after Valentine's Day, you're all chocolate up, and then you need something else like pork because then hot dog season's coming in July for Independence Day. So
We have a comment
Nice.
by
that's not
Joseph
but that's not the
No,
reason,
don't.
right?
No, okay. Later.
I'm not going there.
That's not the. Wait, say what now?
So no, but ham, because they used to slaughter the pigs in the fall, and then these were the days before refrigeration. So how do you keep meat from going bad
Hang it
if
in
you
the
don't
cold.
have a refrigerator?
In the cold
You,
or
hang it,
in the
you
dry?
salt it. You salt it, or put some sort of preservative on it. You usually salt, and then you hang it in the cold air, and it cures, right? So then you've got this dried, cured meat that isn't going to go bad, and you
Eat it.
well, it's ready. It's ready in the spring.
Yeah.
So Easter
good.
would be ham in traditional American, Easter celebrations because the cured hams were ready around this time. So you would get your first taste of last year's slaughtered pigs now for Easter. Yeah,
Yes.
Do you
so
guys
that's why it's
eat
an Easter.
bunnies also?
So it's we eat ham for Easter, not just because we're Christians and we're not Jews and Muslims.
Yeah, right.
It's because of the tradition of curing meat.
I fell in love with ham in America. My family didn't really eat pork in general because they came from Syria. But after the genocide, they traveled to Syria, and then after Syria, they went to New York, and they were like, pork, we're not gonna really touch that. But in America, everyone ate glazed ham was the thing with pineapple and with honey and. But it's very different from the Armenian traditions that I was introduced to.
So now the Easter.
I'm ready to
Easter
share
bunny?
some.
No.
Okay, go ahead. Because
What was your question about the Easter bunny?
where does this tradition come from? Even?
I have no idea.
Where does this bunny come from?
bunny.
I have an
Maybe
assumption
he's
to make here.
Okay.
He's maybe Tooth Fairy's friend. Could be.
That's kind of along the direction of what I was about to say, which was there's Santa Claus that's been become a commercial product by associated soft drink companies. Then there's Cupid and Valentine's Day that's become another commercial capitalist product. So in order to continue down that path, then there's the shamrocks and the green on St. Patrick's Day, and everything's about beer and green and what have you.
Yeah, but that's
Shepherd's
not for
pie.
kids.
Not for kids, but still, it's a commercialization in a way of like a holiday. And then after that, Easter, how can you bank off of it? Sell sugar, highly addictive. Make it so that like the eggs that are probably just starting to be born like the chickens that are. I guess chickens would be having eggs all throughout winter too. I guess.
Well, yeah, if we farm them and make them.
Farm them and have eggs, chickens.
Have eggs, lay the eggs, man, lay the eggs. You gotta lay the eggs.
I would say it's like a commercial symbol it's another symbol of the commercialization of a holiday. So.
Oh yeah,
see
but
what
I mean,
you're
it also,
saying.
it also.
Why a bunny? I don't know.
Easter, yeah, why a bunny? I don't know. But Easter.
Yeah, why is a bunny
the
delivering
Easter bunny
eggs?
is a
The bunny
'Cause it's
has
so cute.
The bunny doesn't have
makes
eggs.
no. Yeah, I know.
The bunny doesn't even have eggs. This is ridiculous.
It makes no
I'm
sense.
sorry. This is like another American conundrum that is unsolvable.
Yeah.
And
Like
I've got
the
some.
Iraq
But hey,
War.
let me tell you, as someone with kids, the Easter bunny makes explaining Easter to the kids easier because you can just avoid it for a long time. Why are we celebrating Easter? Because the Easter bunny is coming. So you don't have to explain to them, yeah, they took Jesus and they pinned him up to a cross and killed him. And then he died.
too
and
much
then he came back to
information for
life
kids.
3 days later. And then, they said, yeah, and this person I know died. Are they going to come back to life 3 days later? No, it only happens with Jesus. And I mean, it's a really, really hard holiday to explain to kids, even though it is the biggest holiday in the Christian faith. I mean, because it's been commercialized so much, we celebrate Christmas probably a lot more openly and adamantly. But Easter is really
A big deal.
theologically the biggest thing.
And that's why we have egg cracking game for kids in Armenia.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to explain to the kids what Easter is.
Well, yeah.
The way it was
each of our countries, we have our own tools. You have Easter bunny, we have eggs cracking tradition. So
just the odd.
I mean, the way that it was explained to me growing up as an Armenian in America was that there's the religious holiday at the church that we would go to, which was the resurrection. So in Armenian, Harutun, and there's actually a name. It's interesting that there's a name like that in Armenian called Harut, which is basically
Harutun.
It's like
resurrect.
Like if there was an equivalent name in English, it would be like Resser as like a name. So Harutun is resurrection, and so we would go there to kind of celebrate the ending of this cleansing season and it was marked by the resurrection of Christ. And my family wasn't very religious, but we would go to church anyway, and it was really uncomfortable because we would be so stuffy in ties and suits, and it would sometimes be really hot on April, and who wants to wear a suit in like the end of April when it's hot outside? It's like, really, guys, do we have to do this? You know, so as a kid growing up, it really didn't make sense to me to get dressed up so much. But afterwards, it was all about the family and the meal, and there's this sweet bread called choreg, which inside of it they would put eggs inside of it, and it's like it's almost like in a Jewish tradition there's a challah bread, so it's like a sweet challah bread.
And we also have a bread burek.
Burek.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a sweet bread made specially for the Easter table.
Yeah, choreg is what we call it, but you call it burek?
No. Yeah, you're right. Choreg.
Choreg, yes.
And it also, along with it, we have also the greens, all kinds of greens on the table, and the eggs, which symbolize the rebirth of life, and the color. Well, usually the eggs are painted in red color. This is what is what is accepted in
you
Armenian.
boil them with the skins of
the onion
to turn them red like this. I also heard
that is the real Armenian tradition.
I also heard that that's supposed to make the shells stronger.
Oh, is it?
But I don't know if that's true. I mean, that's another one of those like hold the egg this way, hold it that way sort of thing. But in America, we make them all sorts of different colors, and like of course, it got really commercialized, right? You can buy little decals and little sets where you do like tie-dyed eggs and all of this different fancy colors. But one of the cool things, it's not an American tradition, but the Ukrainian eggs, those are really cool. You guys know of that tradition, right? How the Ukrainians decorate
with different paintings, ornaments. Yeah, and another fun way of decorating eggs in Armenia include placing a small piece of coriander on top of the egg, and then you take a pair of tights and wrap around the egg tightly so that the coriander is tightly attached to the egg, and later place the egg in the bowl full of red onion shells and boil it. And then you take off the tights and you have the white leaf on the red background, and it's also nice. This is what our grandmas did.
Okay. Yeah, we used to get kits where you would like draw on it with a clear, like a white crayon, and then you would dip it in the dye, and then you would wipe the crayon off, and there would be white, and then you could do it a different color and color that, and you know.
And also the rice tradition. I would like to share about it really quickly because we're about to go on a break. The rice, we boil the rice with raisins and different nuts and dried fruits. The rice symbolize the people, and the raisins symbolize the believers.
That sweeten the world.
Sweetens the world.
It's sweet.
What I love that, but what I love best about that is the bread at the bottom.
Right, bread, Armenian bread lavash.
Like,
crunchy and
like
buttery.
soaked in butter and fried at the bottom of a pan of rice. It is so good.
So good.
Yeah, for me, I'm always curious about the fish because I never had the fish tradition in the States. But I think when we return from the break, I'd like to talk about how the fish came to symbolize Christ.
Sure.
We'll ask
Let's
Master
do that.
Steve for some of his theological perspectives.
Enough time to Google because we have also a
I know
song.
some of that. I can look it up and learn a little bit more. Let's go.
Maine. right
break?
after the break. Yeah. Stay tuned, and we'll be back soon.
Hello?
Hi, is your refrigerator running?
No, it doesn't have any legs.
Some American jokes just don't work with foreigners.
And we're back. We were just listening to Gethsemane. It was one of the Jesus Christ Superstar. Gethsemane. Thank you, Stephen. So this was one of my favorite arias from Jesus Christ Superstar rock opera. It was a cover actually by Van den Plas. So good.
So, and it's about, I mean, going back to the quote before, like the failure of, no, I mean, this song is all about how he's totally not a failure.
Yeah, you know? I agree.
The strength of will, of, you know,
of conquering himself,
conquering his
weaknesses.
own human nature, his own human desires to do the will of God. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the fish?
The fish. So the little fish symbol, you guys have probably seen this. It's like two curves that meet at one end, usually the left side, and cross over and kind of go past each other on the other. And so
what
it looks kind of like a
do?
fish. No. It's the ichthyos is the name of it. And this is all based on Greek. And so I'm going to kind of massacre this. I had to look up the details because I don't. It's spelled differently in the real Greek, the word fish, but spelling it in English like Latin characters, ICHTHYS, ichthyos, sounds like it, but it's spelled different. And so, I mean, aside from the symbolism with Jesus and fish, right? Multiplying the loaves and the fish, to feed a large crowd when there was very little food. There's that reference. There's the reference to Peter, and then there were some of the apostles were fishermen, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
Jesus took them from being fishermen to being fishers of men, gathering people, for him. And so this different spelling in Greek of the word fish, which is, it comes down to being an acronym. The words like Ioda, which is the first letter of Jesus in Greek, Chi, which then would be the first word of Christos, or Lord, the Anointed One, in Greek, Theta, which is the first letter for, God, Theos, in Greek, and then Upsilon, which is the first letter for the word Son in Greek, and then Sigma, S, is the first letter for the word Savior.
How many letters is that?
So you've got Jesus, Christ, God, Son, and Savior. Is what that, like, wrong spelling of the word fish in Greek turns into.
Oh, thanks. This was interesting.
So,
and that's why we
symbol
have also fish and wine on the tables during the Easter feast in Armenia.
Okay.
And they say that fish symbolizes the flesh of Christ, and wine symbolizes his blood that he shed to save the humanity.
Oh, okay. Because of the ichthyos, which is okay. Interesting. Neat. Ichthyos.
Aramas.
And we're going to move on to our next topic now, right?
Yeah.
Aramas, you're going to bring us.
Trip.
Yeah. So
spiritual trip.
So around this time, especially again when I was in the States, for me it was always about spring. Personally, it was just before my birthday, but then it would be about Easter, and then Easter would always revolve around right around the time where Armenians would gather in order to raise awareness about genocide recognition, which was very important to many Armenian Americans in the States, primarily because of the demand for justice, for reparations, and for recognition because of the losses of lands and wealth and the generational traumas that we've all had to kind of live through and still are kind of feeling the repercussions of. Although I really wish that we had the same type of humor as many my Jewish friends had in the States, because I feel like many Armenians are just kind of very, I don't know, they're very bitter, both about like the amount of attention on the genocide and then also the genocide itself and the story and the retelling of these traumatizing, very harrowing stories. I mean, I grew up with stories about my grandfather, Sarkis Saryan, covering himself with his brother's dead body so that the Turkish gendarmes would pass over him so that he would not be caught alive and killed after the marches through the desert. So imagine as a child hearing stories from your parents about what has happened and what has occurred as a means of you maintaining a memory of something that's so harrowing and so heavy. And I feel like a lot of the struggle that is out there now for recognition isn't necessarily only for the remuneration or the reparations paid in terms of economic support to peoples who have lost all of whatever their birthright was, but also because of the healing that occurs. Maybe our sense of humor will be akin to the way the Jews are now if we had all that cash put back to us and the recognition around the world, you know? But as it is, we're just kind of, there's a lot of sadness. There are very few Armenian comedians, and we need more. We need so many more, you know? And I think that
you can be one of them, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. I don't know how am I doing? How's my driving, folks? So yeah, I right around now was the time where we would go out into Times Square in New York, and we would go and kind of protest in a way. And over time, what I noticed, I saw the day before, many Turkish people would gather in order to kind of counter what they would be considering the Armenian misinformation. And so I saw it was around this time, it was a very kind of tense and uncomfortable time. The fasting, the Easter, pre-birthday, all the pollen in the air, hormones going wild because of the spring and the hot weather. And then on top of that, the Armenian genocide. So it's something that was very different than when I came here to the States. I mean, here to Armenia. In Yerevan, what was always very interesting to me was the walking vigil. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Ina?
I can tell you about an advertisement break, which is ready to
Of course,
to come
commerce. Cash rules everything around me. Cream.
We'll come back and go on with Aramast's Hazva QT story. So stay tuned. This is the Great American Weekend.
Ina, what would make America great again?
More barbecue.
No, we need more freedom. That's what'll make it great.
Join us on Great American Weekend.
And help us solve all of America's problems.
Every show is recorded by the NSA and sent to the White House.
We're back in the studio. Hurry up.
You can't cut off the disclaimer.
The disclaimer about the NSA.
We need to
forgot.
tell everybody that.
I apologize. My official apologies.
Sorry, NSA, aka Elijah.
You can say it one more time. Okay, so we're back in the studio with a Great American Weekend, and you can write your questions in the comments till 9 p.m. And now we will continue with Hazva QT's story.
Hey,
Go ahead.
We were just talking about the Armenian genocide and my experience personally as an Armenian American. And I'd like to put the focus on Turkey and Turkish culture now, because growing up, it was there was a lot of negativity surrounding all of the experiences that many of the Armenians had, and the stories of the massacres, the mass exile, genocide, losing homes, and just the sheer and utter loss. And I remember and I recall actually in my university years being in the subway of the A train and hearing I would hear my mother would speak Turkish with her aunts. And so the Turkish language, despite the history being demonized was also part of my experience in my childhood. It was in the ether because it was the secret language of gossip, of speaking about each other, about speaking about other people.
Yeah, well, I remember, just to stop for a second, when I first started meeting Armenians in America, I went over to an Armenian house, and the oldest generation in the house, they were sitting there watching Turkish television. And I knew like nothing about the Armenian language, nothing. I said, "Oh, is that Armenian?" Like, no, it's Turkish.
And not only
and
Turkish.
I was like, whoa. And it took me a while to have that explained to me and for it to sink in. But at the time, there was no Armenian television station on cable in the U.S. So, and they knew Turkish. So it was anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing.
And not just Turkish, but so I had a professor, her name is Kumru Toktamish. She is the professor of Middle Eastern Studies at my university, Pratt Institute. And she was invited to my first group art exhibition where I was showcasing some of my ink drawings. And there was my aunt Zarmine, who I introduced Kumru to. And my aunt started speaking Turkish with her. And very clean Turkish, but the old Turkish, like 150-year-old pronunciation of Turkish. And my Professor Kumru, her jaw dropped because the type of Turkish being spoken was as if it was preserved out of the Ottoman Empire, walking into the 21st century. So there's this connection that was involved, and it made me question because how much do we separate the government from the people? And I remember there's an artist, a sculpture artist by the name of Onik Kardash, who had this really powerful, impacting photograph where he was standing in front of the New York Cathedral with a placard as a protest that say, "On this day, April 24th, unhate a Turk." Which for me was very impactful because it's not the people themselves, but it's the government that created the culture that encouraged this type of thinking that still continues to this day. And without compassion for the people, without compassion for the culture, we won't have the ability to make a bridge. Consider the writers that are out there. Taner Akçam, who dug into the archives, dug out proof, and published several books on how the Ottoman Empire was culpable. Orhan Pamuk, who's made mention in his literature that's Nobel Prize winning, that brings the Armenian genocide to a higher level of recognition. Elif Shafak, who acknowledged her own Armenian heritage from her own grandmother, which for the past 10 years we've been seeing many people who are Turkish citizens who have been raised thinking they are Turks, with a grandmother, primarily a grandmother, because many of the men did not survive, who are Armenian by blood, and they are coming out of the woodwork and they're realizing their heritage. So there's this transformation of this entire nation of people, with people who have ancestry who is Armenian, and now there is this shift in perspective that's occurring. And I think that as Armenians, if we reconnect with the people who are existing there, who are still the inheritors of the Western Armenian that we lament over, like I was saying last week after my trip to Istanbul, we as a nation, Armenians as a people, have a possibility to have access to that which is the birthright for Armenians around the world, which is the connection to that land, which is ours, despite the government, despite whatever existing prejudice might be there. So what I highly encourage is to find people who are Armenian in Turkey and make friends with them, because with this type of connection, as with many Jews do, with helping each other out, working together, preferring to go to someone who is of their faith or of their culture, we kind of need to do that too, because there are treasures there for us. There are connections and possibilities and economic growth and cultural bonds that can be made, that can bridge the gap between Armenians and Turks, and can offer us possibilities that we might not have thought capable of becoming a reality before. So I'll end off with that.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt your passionate speech. It's really cool to hear your story, but we have to go on a break, and we will come back after the advertisement break and a music break. We're going to listen to La Cathédrale by Bruno Pelletier. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but it's a piece from Notre Dame de Paris musical, and we're going to talk about this later on during our news.
In honor and remembrance of Notre Dame before it's...
Stay tuned.
It's burning.
What's the best word in American English?
My all-time favorite word is but I usually refer to it as lovemaking.
Become more fluent in American English and slang.
And we're back live on the Great American Weekend. We're speaking about Armenian and Turkish relations, the genocide recognition, personal experiences, or lack thereof. On an official term, lack thereof, but culturally creating a way to make a bridge. And I have a personal story that I wanted to share with you all. In my university years, again, when I was living in New York, in Brooklyn, I entered into the subway near the George Washington Bridge on the A train. Famous song, by the way, You Must Take the A Train. Check it out if you haven't heard it. And I overheard a young man who was kind of dressed in all black, kind of like he was a metalhead, you know, like black pants, black shirt, had like silver jewelry on.
Typical Armenian.
Well, no, not like yeah, kind of a little more metal.
Yeah.
Rocker. Not very typical Armenian. No.
We have those here now.
But we do have those here now, actually.
Yeah.
So, but they're not typical either.
No, they're not. They're not typical, but they
But
are.
it's starting to be. Yeah, the culture is here, which is cool. I like that.
I dig it.
So I see this guy, this young man, speaking with an older woman, and they're speaking Turkish. And because I recognize the language, growing up, I kind of approached them and was like, "Hey, are you guys speaking Turkish?" And they turn to me and say, "Yes, are you Turkish?" I say, "No, but I'm Armenian, but my family speaks Turkish." And I kind of noticed the woman's face kind of pulling back, and I assumed that she was his mother. And so she kind of assumed already what my intention was in approaching her, and said, "Listen, I know there is a really bad history. There was a war, you know, we were defending ourselves," and started to kind of create the same rhetoric and reasons of denial that many Turks kind of use as their, what they've been educated as having been the history, not having learned what the truth was. And this young man interrupted his mother and said, "Mom, what are you talking about? We killed this guy's grandparents, and why don't you just call it what it is?" And the woman turned to me and said, "Listen, do you see? I let him think what he wants to think." And so there was this very beautiful moment, because then afterwards we went onto the subway together. We had a conversation in the subway, and then we departed. And it was very interesting to me, because truth always prevails. I believe this as a principle. Truth always prevails. Whether you try to deny it or to hide it, it's sensed and it's spoken. Whether it's unspoken, the unspoken truth always prevails. It perseveres somehow, and it's something that I feel can give a sense of understanding to how the people of Turkey have a common and general understanding of what has occurred. It's time for the government of Turkey to enter into an official recognition of it, and that's only going to happen with greater and greater acceptance and understanding, with the secret Armenians or the hidden Armenians being revealed, with more discourse about this happening. So I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, right.
And it's very important for our own healing, because my aunt is a psychologist that works with the United Nations and is a professor at Fordham University, and she wrote a book called Trauma and Mass Society, or Mass Society and Trauma. And is very important for the healing of our entire peoples, because with unrecognized or unacknowledged mass disasters or traumas like this, what happens is that there's this lack of acknowledgement or lack of relevance, or there's this wound that is left unto the victim to heal themselves, as opposed to the kind of joining the acknowledgement or the sense of justice or the sense of truth prevailing, being kind of washed over an entire society. So I feel that we've done pretty well so far at where we are. We'd be much better with an official recognition by the Turkish government, and with reparations being offered in order to have the ability to gain something back for all that was ours.
By the way, I've got some news regarding members of U.S. Congress visiting Armenia Genocide Memorial.
Oh, wow.
There is a delegation of U.S. lawmakers visiting Armenia on April 17th to 19th, where they are set to pay tribute to the memory of the victims of the genocide of 1915. And the website of National Assembly revealed that information. In particular, David Price, Tina Titus, Michael Conaway, Jerry Connolly, Adrian Smith, Barbara Lee, and Terry Sewell will arrive in Yerevan for the visit. The members of Congress will meet government officials and parliamentals, as well as representatives of media, civil society, and non-governmental organizations. They will also visit the Armenian Genocide Memorial and the Mother See of Holy Echmiadzin. So these are good steps forward to
swim in the Holy See.
Yeah.
Sorry,
the Holy See.
Hey, Armas,
what does that mean?
Do you guys? We listened to Notre Dame de Paris, a song from the musical earlier, and we promised to talk about the cathedral. So.
Yeah, that's right. We were just listening to the cathedral song. And we experienced something that was kind of out of an apocalyptic Hollywood film that would kind of be unimaginable this past week.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it was shocking to see it. You know, I saw something on Facebook, and then I went and I turned on CNN right away. And it was incredible to see. It was devastating, because it's an icon of not only the Catholic Church, but of Christian faith in general, and even more than that, just of human artistic possibilities. I mean, that it is such a incredibly beautiful and awe-inspiring. I have, yes.
I have as well.
Yeah, me too. So it was kind of a personal
yeah, and for a lot of people it was, and for me too. I mean, I guess I'm more connected to the churches that in Europe, in Italy specifically, that I've seen more often. But yeah, I mean, it's a Notre Dame is amazing, and I think.
Undoubtedly.
It still is, and it's still there. I mean, the next day I saw some video online that showed that the wooden structure got burned and is gone. And that's one thing. But that has actually been replaced or destroyed in the past. I mean, it was that church has been sacked and damaged pretty thoroughly in the past. What is, I think, for me most important is that the concrete structure with the flying buttresses and the gargoyles survived, and then
those images,
a lot of the stained glass windows, a lot of the stained glass windows, especially the rose windows, the three big round ones, survived. And apparently there was criticism that they weren't able to put the fire out very quickly, but I think part of the reason that they weren't is that they were putting water onto the stained glass windows instead of putting all the water onto the fire in order to keep the stained glass windows cool and protected so that they wouldn't break. So maybe the wood got damaged more, but really, I think we came out of this, humanity, as part of our, cultural, artistic heritage, came out of this really quite well. That, the concrete structure and the stained glass windows are still there intact.
Yeah, it was interesting. There's 500 firefighters at present trying
that worked
to put
throughout the night
trying to put the fire out, and then 100 of those firefighters followed a man named Reverend Jean-Marc Fournier, whose job it was to guide all these firemen to get all the different treasures out of there so that they would survive, including what was said to be the actual crown of Christ and
the crown of thorns that Christ wore on Good Friday during the crucifixion.
Yes, and the other one was a piece of wood
from
and a
the
nail
true cross.
From the cross. So, I mean, imagine what it's like to be in a flame. I mean, imagine the surreal circumstances of these flames and gargoyles and engulfed Notre Dame, and you running in and out with a series of 100 different firefighters to go and pick up and
to rescue as much as you can,
treasures.
Especially those. I mean, artistic things are one thing, and they are amazing and awe-inspiring and wonderful. But these relics is what we call them in English. These things that were, part of the life of Christ. The part of these two things, specifically part of the crucifixion, which, given that yesterday was Good Friday, when we remember the crucifixion of Christ, that's very, very significant and interesting. I think it's very, very weird that the fire started
in this period of time.
Yeah, especially, and I'm not saying anything. I'm not. But I'm hoping
What are you
that
trying
they
to
do.
say, Steve?
I'm hoping that they do a real thorough investigation of how this started, because there have been
several attacks.
Right? Well, yeah. This year during Lent, there were attacks on 10 different Catholic churches. In France. So it. I don't know. I hope it's just an accident.
And as I was reading the comments, all these comments about Notre Dame, one of the things that I read was that a few days ago, before the fire actually happened, there were several statues of saints that were taken off of the building to be repaired.
Well, yeah, they had scaffolding all over on the top because they were doing repair work on part of that wooden roof and that spire.
Right.
So they had removed a bunch of these statues, and those would have definitely been destroyed.
And people were saying that the whole cathedral stayed defenseless without these statues. That's why it became vulnerable, and the fire was there.
Well, luckily they weren't there; otherwise they would have been destroyed as well. So there's the superstitious and the pragmatic sides of both sides of the coin.
True. So we all hope that they will recover the cathedral soon.
I mean, the last I heard, and it was on Thursday, so it's been a while since then. But the last I heard, it was I heard $750 million. But now it's up to $1 billion. Has been pledged to the reconstruction, and that's great. And I hope that they try to do something, tasteful, but different with it. Not just reconstruct it exactly how it was, but to do something. Because when the cathedral was sacked in the past and it was damaged by wars or whatever, they did kind of new things.
Do you think people won't protest?
They probably will. That's why I say, it has to be tasteful, whatever that means. However we end up defining that. But there have been churches in recent history, important churches that have been damaged and had to be rebuilt, and it's always a debate. Do you do it exactly like it was, or do you do something new? But if you think about it, the major churches in the world that we think of today, like St. Peter's in Vatican City, there was another church underneath that was completely different, and it was torn down and built into what we now think of as the church. It's always been there. It's always been like that. Well, no, it hasn't. During the Renaissance, they did that.
By the way, one of the people who donated to the repayment of for the repayment of the cathedral was an Armenian living in Russia. He donated $100,000. So
nice.
I would like to mention that. So what else do we have for news that's worth mentioning? We've got some positive news as well that I'd like to share. The history of Armenian music. Armenian musical instruments is already taught as a separate subject in the Music Education Professional College of Argentine city of Cordoba. This initiative belongs to Argentina-based Armenian musician, duduk player Gagik Gasparyan, who told Armen Press that this is thanks to his consistent actions, which lasted 22 years.
I wonder if there's any relationship with Jivan Gasparyan.
Could be. Maybe he's one of his students. The Armenian culture has been officially adopted as a separate subject in the Argentine college. I'm very happy and proud that I managed to do this. This step enables foreign young people to get acquainted with the Armenian music, folk instruments. I think culture is the key to recognizing Armenia, he said. The first lecture took place in early April, and the audience was excited. They were interested in our history and culture. Armenians live in Argentina for already 100 years. He informed that there is also a comprehensive cooperation with other educational facilities of Argentina. They hold concerts and lectures with the musicians invited from Armenia during the year. So this is cool. This is good news for our cultural development all over the world. And if you guys don't have anything else to mention, I can also share about Yerevan Puppet Theater.
Ooh, which one?
Yeah, the Yerevan Puppet Theater, which is on Sayat Nova Street.
Okay, so the Tumanyan Theater. Because there are several good puppet theaters in town, and that's the most famous one.
But the Yerevan love to visit.
The Yerevan State Marionette Theater on Mashdod Street is also very good. Yeah.
Our kids love them. So Yerevan Puppet Theater won award at International Festival in Poland. It was the 6th International Festival of Ukrainian Theater, East-West, which is called East-West, in Krakow, Poland. The theater's performance, titled Witch, has won the jury's special prize at the festival. Also, director of the performance, Samson Movsesyan, has received a special medal for his contribution to Ukrainian culture. Organizers have invited the puppet theater to take part in the next 7th edition of the International Festival in 2020.
Nice.
Which is based on a story by famous Russian author Nikolai Gogol.
Oh, which story?
Which... probably.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's got all these spooky stories.
See, I didn't know that he had a story called
And
Witch.
by the way, recently they have Russians filmed a really good, like a 3-series movie about Gogol.
Oh.
And it's kind of a fantasy, not horror, but fantasy thriller.
Okay. I've read some of his stories. One of my favorite short stories ever, and it's not that short. It's a long story. Is The Overcoat?
Yeah,
of his. It's a great story.
Yeah, I used to love these his stories since my school years because I'm really fond of mystic stuff, but advertisement is not mystic, it's real. And it's right here. That's reality. We're gonna come back after the break with our calendar of events. Few more minutes to go with our show, with our Easter episode. Stay tuned.
Hey, what kind of fixins do you like on your hot dog?
Fixins?
Yeah, relish, onions, mustard, ketchup, condiments.
No, not that.
Oh, fixins. I love chili dogs.
Learn about American cuisine on the Great American Weekend.
We're back in the studio, almost ready to share the calendar of events with you for the upcoming week. But before that, because I'm afraid that we won't have enough time at the end of the show, as always, I would like to wish you guys all and your family a happy Easter once again, all of us.
Yeah, happy Easter. A little, as far as I'm concerned, it's still a little premature for me. Easter doesn't start until midnight.
Okay,
it's all right. We forgive you,
once
Steve.
we have midnight, our wish is legal.
No,
So-
I mean, it's the thing with the happening at sundown actually goes back, and it's fairly appropriate if I want to be honest, is in the Jewish tradition, religious holidays
Always
start at sundown and end sundown the next day. So, the Sabbath, which is the Jewish day of rest, is on Saturday, but they start celebrating or observing the Sabbath
From midnight.
from sundown on Friday until sundown on Saturday. So, I mean, if you follow the sort of Jewish tradition, and of course Jesus was a Jew, then Easter really would start. Easter Day would start at sundown on Holy Saturday.
I'd like to say like Jesus was the Jew. You know what I'm saying? Like
He
if
was
that-
well. I mean,
if there was like an Uber Jew, he would be it. The
the
Messiah.
Jews would not agree.
I'm
but
attacked
the
by
Christians,
American guys.
but
They wouldn't even let me do my Easter wishes. Thank
The
you,
Chri-
Oh,
guys.
but hold on.
the Christians think that Jesus was the Messiah.
In Armenian, it's Christos Hariavi Merelot, which means
Orniale.
Christ was risen from the dead.
Dead.
And then,
Orniale Harutuna
which is
Hisusi.
blessed is the
resurrection
resurrection
of
of Christ.
Christ.
And then there's also there's something that people say which is great, which is Tsezi Mezi Medzavedis.
This happens Christmas.
That sounds like a tongue
really?
twister. That's a tongue twister
Oh
to me.
man, well, that means like let there be good tidings
good
for
news
all.
good news
I
for
think
all
good
of
news
us.
is anytime. You
Yeah, sure. But I would like to to wish you all guys to take time to reflect on the meaning of Easter and time to be thankful. Many things we take for granted, and it can be serious matter to people somewhere else. And I know that I am thankful for so many blessings this Easter. The biggest of those is family and friends. So thank you.
Thank you. No?
And now this is time for calendar of events and Steven.
So yeah, this coming Friday at the American Corner in Yerevan, we've got the Teen Club, which will be at 3:00, and that's
pretty much all we have.
that's all we've got. No debate this week.
Maybe next
but that'll
time.
come.
It's
That'll
all
come
because
back
of
soon.
all because
the
of
holidays
Easter.
and stuff. Yeah.
Movies in English at Kino Park, Yerevan Mall. Yes.
I want to do my Russian accent.
Of course. Movies in English at Kino Park by Hazva QT.
Movies in English at Kino Park, Yerevan, April 21 to 24. Shazam at 3:15 p.m. Very interesting movie, very action-filled. The Curse of La Llorona.
La Llorona.
La Llorona at 6:30 p.m.
It's
and
a
then
horror movie.
Hellboy at 4:40 p.m. Don't miss that one. It's a comic book movie. That's a good one.
Comic book horror movie. Let's check out for some music. April 21st at 9:30 p.m. Easter with Mikael Voskanyan and friends at Club 12. April 21st at 8 p.m. Kill the Crowd live deathcore bands at the venue.
Yeah, and the scheduling of
boy.
this, I can only imagine, is kind of controversial.
Yeah.
Deathcore metal on Easter.
Let's move on.
Well, no, I mean, Armas, you were talking earlier about the metal and all that kind of. There's a good scene here, and I've seen some of these bands play. They're good.
Yeah.
We don't have
Okay.
time, Steven. April 21 at 8 p.m. Robin Fate Alchemy Duo live at Tom Collins Classic Rock, Pop, Funk, and Blues. April 22nd at 7 p.m. World-known pianist Alexander Romanovsky performing with the State Symphonic Orchestra of Armenia at Aram Khachaturian Concert Hall. Another event at the venue, April 29 25th at 9 p.m., there is new quintet performing. April 25th at 7 p.m., Anush Opera in 3 acts at Opera and Ballet State Theater. April 26th at 7 p.m., Guyana Ballet in 3 acts at Opera and Ballet State Theater. And April 27th at 8 p.m., there is avant-garde folk music production at Centrico Cascade, which is Arto Tunçboyacan.
Yeah, and Bahakan Harabedian. I'm going to that one. That's going to be a great one.
Yeah, that should be a really good one.
April 28th at 9 p.m., Dave Geodakian Sextet at Green Dragon Club Distillery.
And I'm going to that one.
Yeah, I bet you are. There are some parties and festival going on. Parties April 26th at 8:30 p.m. Event is called Attention, the doors are closing. The next station is Tsahkadzor. Well, this is kind of a unique event. Party the whole night in train with coolest DJs, the best DJs, and at a train, Yerevan Tsahkadzor, Yerevan. April 23rd at 9 p.m., DJ Greg and a special guest bartender Ivan Kolyuch at Hugo Bar and Restaurant. And finally, a festival, April 20 and 21st, so today and tomorrow, Zatik Festival at Burakan. Thank you guys for being with us for the past 2 hours. We really enjoyed our Easter episode, and thank you very much once again, Steven, for arranging the egg hunt and the egg cracking ceremony. Because
Yay, I only did it so I could win.
Yeah, come on. You did it to
You got to be in it to win it.
This was a real introduction of fusion of cultures here in the studio.
A blessed Easter to everyone out there. And like Ina said, take some time to reflect on the meaning for the holiday tomorrow while you're spending time with friends and family. Hopefully some of it outdoors, because hopefully the weather will be nice tomorrow.
Yeah.
And 3 words from me. Keep it real.
Keep it real, just like Hazva said.
That's all for the Great American
Friday
Weekend
night.
this week.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Hugs to all.